goes from setups
The
in the
battle
lanes.
begins.
And how sayuw coming up to take the bounce win away from him. He's going to be able to grab it. So 3 runes to start for Empire.
It's a little expensive. A lot of his reach.
The next level play. The next level play.
Good luck getting in late time.
Oh, and well, he might just die here. The save. He's able to hit another stun. They're actually going to be able to get the kill. So 3 runes going the way of Empire, but VP able to find that first blood with the excellent sort of chase and catch those 2 heroes have together at level 1.
Call it Oracle heads back to bot lane on the right side for Clock. At least he's going to have full HP and still have his item. Not the worst, but obviously very good. Not good that Oracle's maybe faster boots.
Interesting to see how this mid matchup is going to go down. GPK definitely the more well-known of the players here in this matchup, and sort of as it goes with the hero, Void Spirit versus Bat. How do you sort of expect this lane to go down?
I mean, Void Spirit's definitely going to be able to get last hits with the barrier. Once Batrider picks 4, then Void Spirit has to be ready to use this. But the worst case scenario, he gets no ganking on the map, while Batrider cannot. But they both have options, and I don't really expect GPK. He's a very.
Yeah, and in terms of the side lanes, where is the feeding the most likely to happen? Like when you sort of look at the setups, who's in the scariest position the soonest in this sort of game?
Trying to get me to do the observers. Let's see. Mine has to be a little careful. I think Grimstroke is most to get killed in this. I think the dual offlane for Empire, the Pugna plus Clockwerk, unless they catch Oracle by himself, I don't really see what happens in the Wraith. So I guess the Radiant offlane and the Dire safe lane, most likely where we see kills, but obviously the Void Spirit Batrider could go bad. There are good plays.
Yeah, and in terms of sort of how both teams are going to be able to take objectives, I mean, I imagine, you know, with the lineups that they do have, it's a little easier for Empire, right? With sort of this Pugna, you know, having the Jug with the healing ward, sort of this ability to group up and take objectives. Whereas VP, they don't necessarily have the best tower hits.
Tied to our advantage.
Yeah, that's a good point. Wraith King obviously is very good at pressuring the map, even if he's not there with his skeletons. But because their opponents have decent tower hitters, good tower pressure, they've got really good lane push, and they also have a Batrider, which is harder to defend these towers. It absolutely should be a little easier. The opposite side, they're still going to have an Oracle sitting tower pushers. Tide is not going to have to worry too much about initiation, so they've got good things going.
Yeah, and I guess that's sort of the strengths that VP do have, having heroes as that Tide and the Oracle. You know, they've got plenty of ways to sort of set up, you know, just having Tide come in, just stand in front of a tower and having solid backup to make sure that they don't allow Empire to get away with any of the early objectives when Empire do start to group up and hunt for the action. CIS at the moment across the lanes. VP coming out slightly ahead. Every single lane of it. The mid lane in particular being the one where there's the biggest difference. GPK coming out solidly on top. 19 for 6 against the 13 for 1 on wins right back. Bottom. Attempt onto Petushara, but each time with Cogs will be able to provide good safety. A little hard for Kingslayer and Nightfall to really close the gap on the Pugna at the moment. And not that Nightfall's going to be too concerned. It's more than happy just continue to focus on the creeps and don't need to spend any time chasing for kills. Still standard. Top CS at the moment.
The nicest thing about having a Clockwerk with these, we normally can just get ran at, but getting past Cogs is just good. GPK with this nice last hitting, a lot more base damage than Batrider, so test last hits, but also use Resonant Pulse to cure other ones. Been pretty ready to save in a skill point as well in case he needs to stay alive from a go from Batrider. So far, having a really
yeah, and I guess when it sort of comes to the mid, it's like they're either side. Do they sort of have mobile supports? Because for the most part, I mean, we just say it's sort of come over towards the mid lane, but he didn't continue to chase in and actually go for any action.
Yeah.
Can either team sort of make any rotation to sort of break up this a bit of a stalemate we're having early on? You know, 5 minutes in, only 1 kill, and that 1 kill, of course, being before the creeps had even spawned. No actual sort of hunting happening yet in this.
You're right. Rotations are a little hard. Clockwerk is able to help with this. But big fight off though, and that line going.
Yeah, that's the combo that's going to be all very strong at this early stage with the Inkswell and the Blade Fury. Empire having very solid ways of getting in on top of the line in these positions where he's just going to find himself a little too out of position, trying to hold that area and set up for the bounty room. Was it to be the case? Will finally break the piece of quiet that we have had for the last 5 minutes.
These are a bit tough for Stroke and line. For both. A nice healing work back up, and they should be able to pretty easily get these last hits under towers. Don't see any stacks yet for Tide, so he's going to lane most likely, try to limit Jug's farm to where you have an advantage, where his mana is low. So you can just contest every last hit he wants to go through by lowering. Hard for go on mid.
See a bit of attention around, especially around the 6-minute point. Setup. Two supports moving in. Perfectly there,
really
synchronized. Yeah, from both sides, just pincering in and locking him down.
And the fact that he Aether Remnant's in the middle of a creep wave, I don't think Bat expected that. If he doesn't land that disable, it's a little bit harder to get that grab, so it would have taken Oracle throwing Fortune's End with line following up, but in that initiate. The Dire Wards, they did have that ward spotting mid, so might have spotted the line, but certainly he gets out of that.
Top lane. Try and turn the trade back onto DMA with the Blade Fury Inkswell, but the TP comes into play straight away. GPK is ready to turn around the action. They know as soon as Smiling Knight uses the Blade Fury aggressively, yeah, GPK's just there immediately. He knows that that's an easy kill for him to find.
Really cool itemization on the Tide as well. He bought a bracer like normal, but also got a really fast cloak. He knows that his kill threats are magic damage. Jug spin, Inkswell, Grimstroke nukes. That is going to allow him to survive through this one. That's why they're ready to. Really smart, fast item pickup.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see sort of what Smiling Knight does after that sort of series of events, because it just goes to show that he can kind of never really play aggressive in that top lane with the Blade Fury if they're not 100% sure that GPK hasn't got his TP up and is going to be able to react. He's definitely going to have to play a lot safer now in this top, and unable to really look to continue to try and push for action with that Inkswell Blade Fury combo now that the levels are up on VP's heroes.
Scary part that they can go in line, but against Tide, not so much.
Yeah.
Not that much mana on Tide though, cannot do a Ravage here, but be very pleased to take away from the Strokes, trying to stabilize them, but the danger. Because Tide is pretty safe, it's going to allow the line to roam. Maybe go on mid.
Starting to look towards Gwyn. They're going to have to set up here. Remnant into the rune, of course, safe. He's still got a stun to go. GPK grabbing up the DD rune, and they've certainly got the damage to take down Gwyn. It's 8 minutes in, 4-1. Into a 2 to 3k lead already here for VP as they're off to a very hot start. And GPK in particular, he's on track to have a very quick orchid this game on the mid-board spirit.
So effective, and this is partially because they have stuff forest that can sit in these lanes. They don't necessarily need the supports to always be there. And as a result, it produces kills on the Batrider, the guy that's to create action on the Empire side. If not Batrider, who's going to do it later? Pugna can sometimes do this. It's Aetherlands at a good. It's like Void Spirit or even Wraithing who have escaped. It's not looking good for Empire if the Bat's going to get off the rhythm.
Yeah, for sure. Gwynny, if he sort of goes down another time in this lane, it's going to be a very hard game for him to recover. We'll see how safe he does want to play. He's 1300 into the recipe for his bots. He's certainly going to do his best to get that done before he finds himself in any sort of action that the VP have been doing a good job at bringing towards him so far. Of course, this is all giving space for Nightfall down bottom, 2200 gold in towards the relic. Looking to hit a solid timing with that, unless Empire is able to make some sort of move. They do have sayuw and EcNart coming down here together, but it feels like it's going to be hard for these three heroes to really kill Nightfall, especially with this reincarnation up and the likelihood that VP, they will react if they do come searching for the Wraith King.
Gray Skeleton ends up spotting out the Grimstroke. Not that the ward didn't see, but they're going to sit around pressuring the tower, give them to do, but the faster that this Orchid comes out, everything just gets really dangerous with the power side, especially if you get Void Spirit on top of Juggernaut.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
That's probably the biggest way
Dire's
to
top
get
tower
destroyed
is
in this
under
game.
attack.
It's Orchid timing and successful game.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, you know, the Jug, he's going to be a long way from having any sort of dispel. He's going for the standard, that Battle Fury build-up, but I believe
Radiant's
incredibly
bottom
vulnerable
tower
against
is
that
under
sort of
attack.
single target silence that
Dire's
GPK is
top
going to
tower
have,
has
especially when
fallen.
you consider his lineup, his team around him. Nobody's really got any sort of saves. Sure, a
Radiant's bottom
defensive
tower has
Decrepify could be
fallen.
offered, but it's not like the VP don't have good magical burst save. Once he's hit the 6, it's going to get blown up sometimes if the finger's up and a Decrepify has been used in an attempt to keep him safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And Line's levels are a little behind here. He's just a little bit over 5 at just past the 10 minutes. But giving Oracle that ulti with the tome is just more
Radiant
important.
are scanning.
Gonna help offset and make sure the GPK doesn't die in a moment like this.
Pike can get hit. They really need to make a big hit with the smoke. TP's already coming in from VP though. They're going to have the numbers and
Dire's
they're
top
prepared
tower
for this
is under
action.
attack.
Who's going to start?
Six.
It off EcNart tries with the Phantom's Embrace, but GPK, he actually jumps straight across him. Let's go in the middle of the action where the 4 heroes are standing. But now Empire down a member. They've got to be careful. Stay laying down the cogs, trying to get out, but GPK is up and closing with the step and dissimulate.
Dire's
Blows up
top
another.
tower is under attack.
And DM, he's going to enjoy. He's actually going to have to enjoy quite a bit of time on the cliff. He's up there for a full minute, Pug.
Yeah, that's not very good. A little too early for a step from an Al.
Oh, I mean, this is sort of the handicap that was needed. You know, Empire, they might not have killed anyone, but Tide is on the cliff for a minute. It's got to be worth something.
Radiant's middle tower
I mean, but
is
the
under
downside
attack.
is you're still up 3k net worth
Yeah.
on the VP side. I kind of feel like they could have killed the Batrider line, ended up Hex to grab the Clockwerk, but Clockwerk wasn't 6 yet, so on hindsight, maybe better to secure the Bat kill. But they still have Finger of Death ready to go, and that's why they're smoking and going for kill. They got Orchid too. Anybody in the game dies this, except for maybe like a Tidehunter type hero, but certainly everybody on Empire side's gotta be scared.
And they might not, you know, you don't expect this when the Tide's on a cliff. Now the question, I wonder, can Empire set up to, you know, do you try and keep this Tide up here? Can you sort of prepare for in a minute, well, when he is going to have the TP back up? We'll see. It looks like they won't be able to do so. DM, he's going to have the TP back up now, so he will finally manage to leave the solitude of the cliff. Meanwhile, over in the jungle of Empire, save out alone. Empire will be able to take down that Lion. No trouble at all.
This is the issue with Line 4. It's you have tons of disable, but your movement speed is definitely way below average, and you are very squishy. But you have really powerful abilities to compensate for that. So a normal 4 might be able to get out of that kind of danger by standing in position, but cannot. And the problem is he can't stand behind his team on the other side of the river, because if he is, then he's not in position to use his important disable. So you kind of have to put yourself in these dangerous areas when you play Lion like. But on the bright side, Tide is back on the map finally. His opponents did not know that he was up there, so eventually gets back into farming, and his net worth still sitting fine, but that definitely cost him a couple hundred net worth.
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely. Knocked him down a little bit. Of course, though, for him and the team, not too many worries on VP, as both GPK and Nightfall just continue to hit some excellent timings on these items. Nightfall, Radiance is going to be done within the minute.
So fast, actually. Incredible speed. So Radiance finished for him. Void Spirit's also top net worth with the Orchid. We haven't seen him get a kill with it just yet, but importantly, this is buying time for Tide to pick up a Blink Dagger. That's kind of what they needed in that last by going mid though.
And Nightfall, he's ready to start some action, starts to run down the Pugna. TP's coming in.
Cool. Haven't seen mech that much lately. It ended up becoming a lot worse when it didn't provide armor aura, so we saw a lot less as like typical offlane heroes. But this game, it's a nice way actually to take these like squishy in heroes and make them better against with survivability. You get this armor aura with Buckler, you pick up a Greaves, and now all the HP that he has is going to go way farther and make him less of a vulnerability. He won't just die instantly to every initiation, as we just saw there.
A bit of a showing for VP around mid to stop Empire from getting in. Have Empire go towards DM top. He's very tanky with it. They have got a lot of heroes.
That's a brace that does not get removed by Kraken Shell, so with that skill, no reflection from Tide to stop his death from coming.
Still going to see VP try and make a move despite losing the Tide. Is saved. Smokes up behind Nightfall. Nightfall, of course, as we said, with this radius already done, ready to
Dire's
battle.
middle tower is under
Keep the
attack.
pressure on this mid tower. And looks like Empire are just going to let this go. Not feeling confident that they can do anything right now to push back this
Dire's
approach
middle tower
from VP.
has fallen.
Now they invade with that tier 1 path dead. They're going to feel really confident to move through, especially with their already set up wards here. Void Spirit looking for anybody. If he spots them, he's going to go. So Grimstroke's got to be careful. But Grimstroke also wants to fight potentially. Team rotating back over there. They got hook shot. They're a little low in mana for clock, but they'll be able to defend. Let's see if they can get the D wards. This is a really important moment here when your opponents do leave your jungle like this. But I think the other ward is going to stay just out of that sentry ring.
Perfectly placed. Well, looks like pretty much the full duration out of it, BP. So I'll look back over towards the mid. I mean, again, Empire just sort of moving us forward, making sure that they are securing space for Jug to get his Battle Fury done, and it is there. So Smiling Knight, he's got his farming item. So he'll sort of step up to the pace of Nightfall farming on the Radiance. Wraith being mid lane, jumps made. Onto the Pugna.
Oh my god.
No chance there.
So much damage. I mean, he had
Dire's
Greaves, so he got to
top
remove the
tower is
Orchid,
under
but then the
attack.
problem is that what do you got afterwards? They have tons of magic damage still,
Dire's
with the
structures
Oracle
are
showing up in
fortified.
position. So these wards just giving them all the gives that they want. They spot their opponents,
Dire's
they can
top tower
initiate.
is under attack.
That's all they need to do. Slow the game down. Jug does have Battle Fury now, but his net worth is behind Wraith Kings. Generally, Wraith Kings are able to stay like keep even in farm speed with Battle Fury type heroes due to all of the advantages you get from the skeletons. So as long as VP keeps the pressure up, they should be able to hold this advantage. But it will still come down to like later game stages of the fight. But with Tidehunter, I don't really see their initiations being weak.
Down bottom, GPK. It's gone in aggressively on to Smiling Knight. Hookshot's going to be dodged very nicely by GPK with the haste rune. He's able to continue to run. He's looking for the lasso. They'll be able to lock it down onto the Oracle, so they'll get at least Kingslayer out of this. But they won't be able to catch anything more as GPK is able to disengage. So it is something, but it is just a support.
Play there from the Oracle. He used the Shadow
Radiant's
Amulet to be
bottom
invisible,
tower
and
is
what he was
under
waiting
attack.
for was a lasso. I'm not here, you guys can't see me, nobody can initiate on me, but then the random flame break that was meant for Void Spirit pushes him out of it, and it gets killed. Pretty funny.
And Empire will get another one out of it. Save still hanging around in the jungle whilst Empire
Dire's
continue to
top
sweep
tower
across.
is under
Both
attack.
supports taken out. Again, a little bit of distraction really as Nightfall continues to get a lot of space on this top half of the map. Already having the Sandwich done over the Radiance. Smiling Knight will come in to hold the defense. Continuing to try and do his best to catch up with the Raid King. I mean,
He's doing a great job though. I mean,
yeah.
considering the fact that Void Spirit had the Orchid so early, like he hasn't died since he got the Orchid, but it definitely feels like his impact has been underwhelming from what we expected.
No, for sure, yeah. Hasn't really been able to find Smiling Knight in a position where that early Orchid has really caused huge issues for the Jug. Smiling Knight.
All they need to do is maneuver Empire towards the bottom side of the map, then they can all go top and roach easily. So the game is still looking pretty good with for VP with this gold advantage.
Dire are scanning.
Now the thing is for Empire,
Dire's
they obviously
top
do
tower
have some
is
pretty
under
cool
attack.
combos to play around with the soul binds, the lassos. Is this sort of something that VP is going to be very scared of as a
Dire's
lineup,
top
or do they have sort of
tower is
sufficient counterplays to that sort of combo that Empire's going to
Radiant's
try and bring
middle
to them?
tower is under attack.
I think the obvious way to deal with it is just to initiate first. If your opponents do find there's a BKB on Batrider, so he's pretty protected against like a Ravage initiation, but if they
Dire's
can
top
grab
tower
a
is
Soulbind
under
double
attack.
lasso, yeah, it's going to be really bad for VP. You've only got one way to offset that, and that's going to be like Blink Ravage or Oracle spells. So, but again, it's all about position.
Get down bottom, Gwyn.
Duels.
Quite.
Use duels to set that one up.
Empire's going to be a bit careful. VP
Dire's
there,
middle tower
sweeping
is under attack.
right round. Attack him on the retreat, jumping with Ravage. It will clip onto the clock, but Gwyn, quick with the BKB, out with the TP. Sayuw might still be in a bit of trouble here, but he's got the hook shot. He's underneath the tower, and VP, they won't be able to chase any further.
Dire's
So
bottom tower
a nice
is under
disengage there
attack.
from Empire. Ravage down, and nobody losing any life really for it. Just a BKB charge down the drain, and Gwyn's more than happy to spend that to keep himself alive.
Yeah, and actually, importantly, this wasn't the worst for VP. They should be able to get this tier 1 tower, and they got the tier 2 top already. favor. And they got the Shrine too, so no experience bonus from Shrines coming. VP gets map control, they're going to invade the Tri-Camp now.
Okay, straight up, he's going to be able to find the duel setup. Man's straight coming over. He's going to dodge it with the Simulate. They look to burst through the clock first. They'll be able to get him. sayuw goes down. DM forcing back the rest of them, and Smiling Knight can't really find a good target to commit him with the Omni Slash, so has to continue to hold it. Empire, they'll take the rest of them out of there. They're losing the clock on the front, but still it's VP again continuing to just grow their advantage. DD Rune also spawning top. VP certainly could look to get something achieved with that.
GBK is doing such a good job leveraging his high net worth in such aggressive ways. He jumps in, spots enemies. He knows that if they go on him, he's relatively safe. He'd had duels. He's even got an Essence Ring as well. So his survivability is like massive at this point in the game. And because bad to net BKB, realistically, it's not going to be easy for him to initiate game. GBK crucially saved his Orchid in that fight too. So that things got a little bit hairy. After that initiation, he could always ideally prevent Batrider from going in. But here they go. They're going to smoke and try to take this fight, knowing they're roaching.
If they can find the timing with the jump, Gwyn can get in there, roll forward with the BKB, and get a lasso. Could set something good up. VP playing it smart though. As soon as they know that Empire's hunting, they back out of the pit.
Radiant's
They want to
middle
look to
tower
overcommit.
is under
They know
attack.
that even if they leave this area for
Radiant
sort of
are
split back up,
scanning.
it's incredibly unlikely that Empire's lineup of heroes is able to get into the Roche
structures are
pit and
fortified.
really take it themselves. So VP can play relaxed.
It's not worth it until they Ravage anyways. 20
Radiant's
seconds to go,
middle
then they'll have a
tower
better
is
chance to
under
fight through
attack.
that. They'll lose the tier 1 for sure, unless they initiate on Pugna right now. He's going to blast this down. So mid tower will
Radiant's
fall,
middle
giving a
tower
little bit
has
more map
fallen.
control for Empire. But still, the net worth advantage is creeping more and more towards VP. So they have more threats on the map. Their heroes are harder to kill generally. SNY finished now on Wraith King, just to reduce the amount of disable he's going to be hit with, either from decreps or from lassos. So definitely gonna make it easier for him to avoid being kited constantly.
Looking at sort of the way that GPK is continuing to spend his net worth, he seems to have the boots of travel done. And do you like sort of the fact that he's getting this rather early this game as the Void Spirit?
I like it this game, especially because his
Dire's
opponents
middle
have
tower
kind of
is
limited
under
disables. And as a result, like between
Radiant's
Astral Step
bottom
and a
tower
Yule
is
Scepter,
under attack.
he should be able to avoid everything mostly, and just having VOTs is going to allow him to just constantly outrun the guys with weaker disables like Pugna, or chase down heroes like Grimstroke who can't defend themselves well. So, and split push advantages too.
Let's see, Roshan, VP are going for it. They also look to make the jump over towards sayuw. Then you is scouting on the high ground, looking for an opportunity to get him with the hook shot. They'll play him up quickly. sayuw goes down. Empire now just with the 4 of them. It'll be very hard to sort of get back over here. Roshan down to half HP. Without clock, sort of their best initiator right now. Probably too much Empire to about this. They're just going to split up, try and take what they can from the map. While they have the beacons in it, they have no intention of actually trying to fight with their clock down.
Radiant's bottom
They
tower is
want
under
to for
attack.
sure, but
He's
he's aggressive. His smoke breaks and he just jumps, knowing that he's going to be able to initiate us at the end and probably survive afterwards. If they have better disables on the Empire side, they can actually react to this Void Spirit. It would be less scary for them to take that engagement, but everybody on VP reacts correctly. The smoke breaks, everybody leaves the pit, they get the 1 kill, then they finish Roach, knowing their opponents can contest at them. So the farm advantage continues.
See, Smiling Knight just about to finish the Manta. I mean, as sort of the Jug in this game, do things ever sort of get any better in terms of the matchups, or is it always going to be a hard game against a Wraith King that's the sort of an item ahead of you?
It's definitely going to be hard for the obvious fact that Omni Slash is like your big team fight skill, and he's got his ulti, so ideally what you want to do is Omni Slash the backlines if possible, like I'm talking the supports ideally, or to Omni Slash a guy that's lassoed, that way you can finish him off for that initiation, but that's going to come down to his teammates playing effectively. And the fact that he has to buy Manta afterwards is completely on the fact that his opponents have Orchid and good disables to deal with him. So he's got a kind of dangerous game, especially once Save's got his Blink Dagger now online as well. So he's got to be very careful about spinning at the right time or initiating. I wouldn't be surprised. He's going to go Ags to allow him to jump in, but I was thinking maybe Blink Dagger as well. He needs a way to be able to jump in to do damage without being disabled on the way in, either by Ravage or Save or as a Void Spirit. So it's a tough game for a Jug this game for sure. I felt a little surprised when he ended up getting picked there in that 4th phase against the Tide.
has fallen.
Yeah, because so far, I mean, he's been able to farm you know, decently. Of course, nothing near to the level of
Dire's
Nightfall,
bottom
but
tower
other than that, it's not really been able to achieve too much. Not really seen any opportunities for him to get any early action with any of the Omni Slashes. To the point, I don't even know if he's used it at all really this game. It just hasn't happened.
Either.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily do
Radiant
amazing
are
against
scanning.
Tide, at least once Tide picks up the cloak in lane and survives like he did. It doesn't do that great in the other hero matchups. Obviously, he didn't know that the Wraith thing was coming, but just makes the game really hard here for the Empire side to take engagement. Clock on the map, but almost sure they're gonna die to this.
Easy setup. I say losing his life yet again. Continues to have a pretty rough game on the clock. 0, 5, and 1. Just hasn't been able to achieve too much at all, apart from just sort of I guess dying for his team.
Dire's middle
But
tower
definitely
is
nothing
under
more than that
attack.
this game.
He gave Pugna a better lane. That was the best thing that he's accomplished for sure, that Pugna did not get behind it. Pugna's sitting 2-1 and 2. He's got Greaves and he's got Aether Lens, but it's a little too hard for them to take engagements. The Clockwerk 6 came pretty late and later than they needed. They needed
Dire's
fights
middle
by
tower
then.
has
Barrett had a below average
Radiant's
game
top
due to
tower
those nice
is
games, so
under attack.
it just all cascaded into
Dire's
VP
middle
having this
tower
big.
is under attack.
He's starting to take a poke with a high ground hit. We'll see. GPK gonna head out toward top lane. Let's push that out. I want to try and go for the high ground siege. Yeah, still got 2 minutes left on the Aegis to make moves.
Really early gem picked up Tide. I also love the pipe that he's picked up. His opponents, they have great counter push, but it's all nukes. And they've done this a couple times. They're just piping skeletons while they hit buildings because they know it's going to make them get 100 more damage in before they end up falling. So they've got great items. Control the map here. 10k gold advantage now on the VP side, while Empire struggles to get map control.
I mean, and it's, as you said, with that pipe, the thing is, even if Empire are able to get some sort of soulbind, 2-man lasso, are they actually going to have the damage to kill any of these heroes when they're locked down?
Yeah, it feels really hard now, especially like Pugna is all about dealing magic damage. Barrier's really good against Decrepify because it blocks the damage before it's amplified by anything. So pipe across the board is going to help counteract Pugna. It's definitely going to help against Batrider. It kind of comes down to Omni Slash, and while Jug is doing okay north, he's 5k behind the Wraith King now. So, and he's getting Ags afterwards, so he's just dealing damage with Battle Fury and Manta Style. Like maybe he'll get a really good neutral item that'll help amp his damage up, but I'm not feeling it right now.
See the step up straight away there. As will they actually be able to keep him alive? Or maybe not. The final astral step for GPK does get the kill done. He turns over the wall with Pugna, and that'll be another silence in with the Orchid. No escape for Petushara.
Not another step.
As VP just taking them what they want here. It's just so hard for Empire to fight whilst they're down 12-5, 12k lead. And GPK, look at him just aggressively jumping up into the base. He knows that he's not going to get money for this. Set up there, Ravage the ball up for TA, catching on to the three of them. They take down gwynbleidd. Smiling Knight trying to spin away with the Blade Fury. He will manage to make it out of there and away from this aggression off VP. VP more than happy to turn their attention over towards the tier 3. Well, I should say that they're going to be a little careful with the Tide being as low as he is. GPK Aegis is now expired, but as you can see, still full HP and full mana, of course, thanks to that Aegis regeneration.
They're just playing it super safe. Ravage gets used. Batrider not fearing the chain stun that came out there. He didn't want to pop BKB after Yule's ended. If he did and they didn't go in, it just would have been awful for him, right? BKB's down, now we can't fight. But they burn everything. In some ways, this is better. They lose their hero, but their Rack stays alive. But it's really just buying VP more time to control the whole map and compound this net worth advantage that they have. So, game's still looking bad here.
It's going to be a tough one. I mean, Empire, this sort of lineup, when it comes to sort of defending the base, I guess, you know, if they can get sort of a lasso and get someone in nice and deep under the tier 4s, there's an opportunity. But other than that, holding the high ground doesn't necessarily seem like their lineup's going to come into a different sort of element at that point of the game.
This illusion just revealed their smoke. Empire playing on high octane, knowing they're behind. Use the Phantom's Embrace on an illusion without smoke being broke. So now they know. See if they get a good fight with this. No rabbit for 60, but can they grab the right person?
I mean, Gwyn's in with the BKB. He's looking for a target. He will finally manage to lasso the Oracle. At least that's coming out, but he's just not got the damage to back it up. They do at least find one. They'll get Kingslayer. But now, Smiling Knight, he's got to get on a retreat. Nightfall, GM, they're able to jump in, get themselves on top of Petushara. Over towards Gwynbleidd and Smiling Knight, they go. Gwynbleidd find the blink in time. To outside, it's just another one. Yes, sayuw going down. BP just so strong right now. 15k lead and just growing by the 1,000 every minute as it seems. It's Abyssal Blade. It's going to be done very shortly for Nightfall.
They're doing so good. I mean, it was arguably an okay initiation. Batrider wanted to target the Oracle. If he does not, then his ulti gets countered, but had some vision issues there. And eventually does lasso him, they get the kill, but it took basically everything, including an Omni Slash, to pick off that support. And Pugna ends up getting worked down eventually too, so tough fight there for Empire. And that was without Ravage, by the way, so it's only going to get worse from here, especially if their opponents initiate, so BP weathering the storm there. Let's see if they can get more picks. Nightfall is going to find some here.
Great job.
Correct.
How did that Swift Slash give you a lot of confidence in Empire's ability to win this game?
I mean, that's Swift Slash into a swift death from Judge as Smiling Light is gone, and they... Well, we might synergies. Yeah, there we have it. There we have it. This was a rough one. It was anticipated to be a rather one-sided matchup, and this game one purge is kind of looking to be that way as VP just cruising in this first game.
Yeah, the VP got the core matchups they wanted to. Their Wraith King had a pretty good